I'm Eleanor. I'm 80 years old, and I've lived long enough to see most of life's patterns repeat themselves in ways you don't always notice when you're young. I want to tell you something that might save you decades of heartache, confusion, and self-doubt. Not because my life was extraordinary or scandalous, but because it was ordinary, and that's exactly why this matters. I've thought about writing this letter to my younger self for years, but somehow it never felt urgent enough. Now it is. I want to go back to when I was 20, just starting college in Ohio, living in a small apartment with too many textbooks and too few friends who really mattered. I was trying so hard to be the person everyone expected me to be, responsible, talented, polite, accomplished, and at the same time I was terrified that I wasn't enough. If I could sit down with that 20-year-old Eleanor, the first thing I'd say is this: stop trying so hard to fit into the world's mold. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. I spent so much of my youth believing that success was a straight line. I thought you went to school, got a degree, found a stable job, married a partner, had kids, and somehow happiness just appeared at the end. I was impatient to tick boxes, afraid to make mistakes, and terrified of disappointing people. I didn't realize that life rarely works that way, and the truth is, most people don't tell you that. When I was 22, I met Mark. He was kind, charming, and ambitious. I thought he was the one, at least the one for that time in my life. We moved in together, shared a tiny kitchen, and talked late into the night about our dreams. But I didn't fully understand what it meant to love someone. Not the way I was supposed to at that age. I tried to shape myself into the version of Eleanor he seemed to want, instead of figuring out who I was. If I could tell 22-year-old me one thing, I'd say, you cannot love someone else fully if you are constantly reshaping yourself to be who they need you to be. That's not compromise, that's surrender. We stayed together for 3 years. They weren't bad, mostly quiet, ordinary happiness, but over time I realized I had lost pieces of myself I couldn't reclaim. I was restless, exhausted, quietly unhappy. Ending things with Mark was one of the hardest choices I ever made. Friends didn't understand. But he's so nice, they said. I had no perfect answer, only that I needed to honor my own heart. Career came next, nursing in Michigan and Ohio. I worked long hours, doubting myself, thinking my value was measured by giving. I wish I'd learned sooner. Say no, set boundaries, protect your energy. Love came back into my life in unexpected ways. At 28, I met Susan, a friend from work. She wasn't romantic. She was a mentor and confidant, someone who could see the parts of me I hid even from myself. She challenged me, encouraged me, and occasionally told me things I didn't want to hear. She was instrumental in shaping my sense of self in my 30s. I'd tell my 30-year-old self, invest in friendships that challenge and sustain you. These are the people who will carry you through the rough patches you can't yet imagine. I also learned the hard way that family isn't always as dependable as you hope. My parents loved me, of course, but they had their own anxieties, disappointments, and limitations. For years I wanted their approval for every choice, from career to relationships, and it nearly suffocated me. Only when I stopped seeking their constant validation did I begin to make decisions that truly reflected my values. I would tell 35-year-old me, stop trying to live life to meet other people's expectations. They will always have opinions. What matters is how you feel in your own skin. Parenthood was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I had my daughter Claire when I was 39. Becoming a mother changed me in ways I couldn't have predicted. There were days when I felt completely inadequate, terrified that I was messing everything up. There were nights when I sat awake, staring at her sleeping face, thinking, I hope I'm enough. If I could advise my 39-year-old self, I'd say, you are enough. You have always been enough. Stop questioning that. Stop trying to be perfect. Just show up with love, presence, and patience. That's all that matters. I'd also warn her about the subtle dangers of losing yourself in parenthood. It's easy to forget that you are a person beyond being a parent. I spent years feeling guilty for wanting time alone, for wanting to work again, for wanting to explore my own interests. And yet, those things were necessary for me to be the mother Claire deserved. I would say, Eleanor, your child will thrive when you thrive. Prioritize your well-being, not out of selfishness, but out of responsibility. Romance entered again, unexpectedly, in my mid-40s. Jason, a colleague at a hospital conference in Denver, became a companion, a partner, a friend. It wasn't perfect, nothing is, but the lessons of my past, how to communicate, how to honor my needs, how to let go of resentment, made me a better partner. We built something real, gentle, and sustainable. I tell my 45-year-old self, love is not a race or a box to check. It is a slow, patient building of trust, curiosity, and kindness. Do not settle for less because you are tired or lonely. Career lessons came gradually, too. I wish I had taken more risks in my 20s and 30s. I wish I had applied for leadership roles, pursued specialty certifications, even started that small clinic I dreamed of. Fear held me back more than any lack of ability. I spent years letting doubt dictate my choices. I would tell my younger self, take the leap, fail fast, learn faster. Your mistakes will teach you more than your successes ever could. Health is something I would also emphasize. In my 40s, I ignored warning signs, stress, insomnia, small pains, and paid for it with a serious surgery in my 50s. I wish I had been gentler with myself, seen the importance of preventive care, of routine checkups, and of listening to my body. I would advise my 40-year-old self, respect your body. Treat it as a friend, not a machine. It will carry you for decades if you do. Financial independence is another lesson. I was lucky to inherit modest savings from my grandparents, but I also made mistakes with investments, retirement accounts, and budgeting. Learning about money in your 20s and 30s is crucial because it buys you freedom later in life. The freedom to make choices based on your values, not necessity. I would tell my 25-year-old self, start early, even if it feels small. Compound interest is the quiet magic of adulthood. Friendships, too, have a rhythm I wish I had understood sooner. Some friends will drift away, and that is okay. Others will arrive at the exact right moment, just when you need them most. Let go of guilt for people you've outgrown. Celebrate the ones who stay. I would tell my 30-year-old self, invest in friendships, but let them evolve naturally. You cannot force loyalty, and you cannot manufacture closeness. I also wish I had embraced solitude more willingly. I spent decades fearing being alone, thinking it was a flaw or a punishment. But solitude taught me to think, to feel, to observe, to be present with myself without distraction. It gave me resilience, perspective, and clarity. I would advise my 22-year-old self, learn to enjoy your own company. It is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. As I reach 80, I realize that life is not about avoiding pain or making everything perfect. Life is about noticing, responding, learning, and loving. It's about living honestly, even when it's hard. It's about making mistakes and forgiving yourself. It's about choosing courage over comfort over and over again. I would tell my younger self, you will stumble, you will cry, you will feel lost, and that is exactly how you will grow. Trust the process, trust yourself. Regret is something I don't carry, not the kind that weighs you down. I have regrets in small things, sure, things I wish I'd said, trips I wish I'd taken, risks I wish I'd tried sooner, but they don't define me. What defines me is what I did with the time I had and what I continue to do every day. I would tell my 20-year-old self, don't fear regret. Use it as a compass, not a cage. Finally, the biggest piece of advice I would give is this. Be kind to yourself. You are doing the best you can at every stage of life, and that is enough. Life is messy. Life is ordinary. Life is beautiful in ways you cannot imagine when you're young, and it keeps offering second chances, new beginnings, and moments of joy that feel impossible until they happen. So, to my younger self and to anyone listening who feels anxious about the years ahead, I say, breathe, trust yourself, follow your heart, take the leaps, say the hard words, chase the dreams, love fully, and always, always forgive yourself. If you found value in my story, if you felt a little less alone hearing these reflections, subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. There are more stories coming, stories that celebrate ordinary people, ordinary choices, and the extraordinary courage it takes to live fully. And if you've lived through something similar or if you're in the middle of it right now, leave a comment, share what resonated, what made you pause, or even what you disagreed with. These conversations matter. Your story matters. There's a form in the description if you want to share your own experience. Maybe your story will inspire someone else to take the leap they've been afraid to take. Because at the end of the day, life is about showing up honestly and courageously for yourself and the people you love, and that is more than enough.